and also train them. When it comes to the training is upskilling, because of the changing technology and new equipment, then they also need to be in touch with food anymore. We call them bingwas. That they are champions, people who have a better skill and more understanding of what we are doing, and they are able now to come and serve you in a very dignified way. So, without saying or talking too much, is to say that we have been reaching out to the estates. I think we have had a conversation with Sotikao Estate, also Jutanga Estate, and trying to see how we can reach out more to you and be able to use our application. We have an application called Bingwa App. Being the representatives here, I would kindly request you can also preach the message to your estates and your resident association, your members, that you can download the Bingwa app. It's only into your phone, very simple. You only enter your name and your phone number, and you are in. You're able to request a service. Anything around construction, plumbing, electrical works, if you want someone to come and do renovations, there's a leaking tap, we are your go-to person. If there's anything to do with beauty, I know ladies have an attachment to their salons, but if you want a convenience, one of the key things that we sell, there are three things that we sell. We sell convenience, reliability, and trust. We can guarantee you that the service that you are getting, if that service is not as per your expectation, we have a money back guarantee, or else we send someone else to come and do the service. We ensure that quality is the same. So if you are living in a gated community where there are regulations around what kind of work can be done, if it is paint work, is it being done the same? So you don't find that there's someone who comes to do painting with a brush, another one comes to do painting with a roller. Those are the things that we ensure that all the service providers who come to your gated community or within your association, that they are offering a similar and same quality of service. Okay? So thanks a lot, Kara, for the partnership that we have had. And we really thank the Governing Council for being a partner with us. And we really look forward to serving our communities. That we are more of an impact organization and ensuring that we make lives more quality and more enjoyable. Asanteni sana. Yes, please.
Do you have a website?
Yes.
What is that website?
The website is called bingwa.ke. So bingwa.ke. That's the app. Yes. So when you go to the website, you can register on the website, or you can just download the application. Ukienda kwa Play Store, it is not on iOS. Ukienda kwa Play Store, you'll find it in Bingwa app. Just download Bingwa. It has a letter B, so just download and register. If you want to use on the website, ni bingwa.ke. Asante.
In terms of your bingwas, are you just within Nairobi or it's a country-wide thing?
So currently we are in Nairobi. We have some we have activated in Kiambu, and also we are trying to activate within Nairobi Cosmopolitan all the way to Kitengela. But we are still growing. We have actually other service providers out of Nairobi, all the way in Eldoret. But then you find that we don't have much traction in terms of customers from those sides. But we are pushing that we move to other counties as well. Asante.
Thank you very much for that. Actually, our interest in this, as Kara was a certain aspect of it. We talk about being security in terms of whoever is contracted, whoever comes to your house, is somebody who has been vetted and being what takes responsibility for that person. It also brings convenience, because just at the click of your phone, whether you're in your sitting room or wherever, you don't have to go out looking for an electrician or a plumber. And you know that we also have a lot of quacks in this country. People masquerade as electricians or plumbers, and they don't have any training, they don't have any skills. So at least you know that when you're dealing with this platform, then the person who you're dealing with has been vetted, and they've confirmed that he has the necessary skills and qualifications, and then they can be sure that you do a good job. The model is such that when you make an order and the person comes and do your job, when I'm making payment, the payment goes to like an escrow account. So the only time that payment is released is when you have confirmed that the work has been done to your satisfaction. That's when now the Bingwa releases the money to. But now the current president of AK. So when I spoke with them, we agreed that both of them come because I think it will be now a handing over session for the outgoing and the current president. And like mentioned earlier, even the chairman's report, last year we did sign an MOU with AK. And the reason we did that is because we realized that some of these battles that we are fighting require collaboration and require partnership. And we must be able to join hands and build synergy so that we can be able to make greater impact. So we signed an MOU with AK, and part of the activities of mission under that MOU was just to create awareness about issues around built environment. What is your role as a resident association? What is your role as an individual? And what is the role of the professionals? And then how can we join hands as people who have common interests to make sure that we are pushing our agenda and we are making a positive contribution to the built environment. So that is part of the reason why we have AK here today, just to speak to us on what exactly is the role of professionals on urban development and planning. And perhaps what have they done to make sure that we streamline this sector, and how can we work with them as resident association so that as we push our interests and as they push their interests, we are able to build synergy and make a much greater impact than they are making right now. So that's the reason that why they're here. When the member guests come, we'll introduce her and she can talk about the issues around the circular economy approach to waste management in regard to the Sustainable Waste Management Act that requires that right now, even at the household level, you must segregate your waste. You are not allowed to put all the waste in one basket. Actually, there's a fine. If somebody makes an inspection in your house and finds you with just one waste bin, where you're putting the organic, the inorganic, the plastics in one basket, you're supposed to pay 20,000 shillings for that. And it's the law. So you can actually be fined for doing that. Anyway, when our guests come, they'll talk more about that. But for now, please allow me to introduce our guest, Architect Florence Nyole. He's the outgoing president of AK. She's been serving there for some years. And we also have George Arabu Dege, who is now the current president of AK, who has taken over from Florence Nyole. So Florence, maybe I'll invite you, and then you can invite the president. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Henry. Good morning. Good afternoon. We were invited to be here quite early in the morning, 11 o'clock. Now you can see it's already midday. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to recognize the chair of CARA. Thank you so much. The CEO, Henry, who's been a good friend. I see many leaders from different residents associations that we've worked with. I can also see, I guess we work somewhere in now, Abundant State actors. I see my member here who was in my AGM yesterday. He's here. So much, thank you. And really, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege and honor to come to an event and not to be the one who has to make a speech. Because as yesterday, 6 p.m., I did hand over the reins of AK to my successor, Architect George Arabu, who will be giving the keynote speech on behalf of AK. For me, and from where I sit, one is to say that our MOU is about a year old. We should probably must have been the anniversary on around 18th February, if I'm not wrong. So it's exactly a year since we signed our MOU. And our MOU has gained a lot of traction. We've actually accomplished some of the tasks that we put in there, some objectives. And one, I really want to thank Henry and his team for being, always on my case also to, collaborate and to work together. And even they've been able to attend our events. Like for instance, the Jemu na Mjengo event that we held in Ruai, in Mihango, Ruai, they were there. We had CARA present, because that's a neighborhood association that is also growing. I know we talk about hotspots elsewhere, but everywhere in Nairobi is, rapidly expanding, and we had CARA present there. I think I also want to thank you for giving us a citizens report, which is part of our Status of the Built Environment report in 2024. That's a very good report. Actually, it's gained a lot of traction because residents were able to tell us what they feel about the built environment as it is presently. So that was very key for us, and then we're happy to have it, as a whole report within our status of the mixed environment report, which is, I'm sure, in your own communications, that has already been shared. I think for me, the topic today is very apt. We are a professional association. I believe the incoming president will be talking about it. And I want to assure you that the collaboration that we've created with CARA is not something that will end now. Arabu and I have worked very well together. Even as he's incoming, he was actually the vice president, and he was running the research and advocacy committee, which then handles the issues of our MOUs and collaborations and partnerships. So he's been there, he's present, he understands everything that's going on. And I think I'm just using today, to get used to the fact that I'm no longer being called president. So I'm enjoying the privilege of somebody had called me, and it was a great honor. I actually told Henry I'm not going to come because I'm no longer president. But he said, no, it's good that the two of you come, and I'm happy that I'm able to do this. I assure you that the transition at AK was smooth, without any issues. Now we have a new team in place, and I'm sure they'll be working well with them. We'll be able to collaborate as much as possible. So without much further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to introduce to you Architect George Arabu, who is now the President of the Architectural Association of Kenya. Karibu.
Thank you, Madam IPP, for introducing me, but also thank you, Kara, for inviting us. I stand by the protocol that has been observed by my predecessor. And if I may just jump to, it's not really a speech. I hope this is a trigger for, it's more of a call to action. And I hope that even as I'm speaking to you from here, I'm really speaking to us, because since we have this MOU, our intention is that we do it together. And my past president will bear witness that that was the same sentiment I had yesterday during my acceptance speech to this very red hot seat at AK. Of course, let me just start by saying that UMATA, associations in residence, associations that are registered, of course, and recognized MATA. And because we have these issues of urban governance and planning, as well as issues of policy and implementation. Because this is the place which such kind of issues can be addressed, not from an individual perspective. Second thing I want to mention is that we recognize, even as built environment professionals, and perhaps let me also say this, that as an introductory message, that AAK is going to celebrate its Diamond Jubilee in 2027. So we are probably the oldest, actually we are the oldest built environment professional body in Kenya, which was started by 4 different professions. So despite the name architectural, which we like to insist is the whole built environment, it was started by planners, engineers, quantity surveyors, and architects. And then we later on added 4 other professions: landscape architects, interior designers, environmental design consultants, construction project managers, and town, yes, those ones. And these it's the only umbrella body of its kind in the world, because we believe that eventually we're going to have one apex body, and that is in the same spirit on how we address projects. We usually tell our members that you can work with the people you don't like, but when the client comes and gives you a brief and money, you will deliver the project. So how is it so difficult for us to come together and do other things together? So just as an introduction, I needed to mention that so that you have a perspective on what AAK is. So we recognize the challenges of urban planning and development control. Why? Because Africa is rapidly urbanizing. And rapidly urbanizing because of population explosion, and also coupled with the challenges of unplanned growth. Why is that? We have a lot of limited participation of the public. And the reason why that the public is not participating, some of the things I'm going to mention here. Of course, the first being lack of knowledge, lack of expertise, but just not looking at in the future, okay? There is a lot of focus on the immediate gains, particularly on the individual levels, where I'm thinking about my household, I'm thinking about my house and my walls. If you go out of Nairobi, out of Kenya, perhaps to a country that has more level kind of income earning, one of the things you'll be surprised to see is that you or not see are perimeter walls. Why? Because perimeter walls are used to segregate people, you know, to keep yourself feeling safe. It's actually about feeling, not being. Okay? So these are some of the things that you will start wondering, why is it that we're all addressing issues of urban from a personal perspective? So can it be done from a community perspective? And when we're talking about these kind of things in architecture and the planning world, there are several principles of things like community surveillance, okay, where the community itself is actually looking out for each other. And you will not find perimeter walls in places where the community actually cares about each other. So think about it every time you open your gate and go inside. Are you feeling safe or are you safe? But anyway, that's a topic for another day. The third thing I want to talk about is how residents association can professionalize. Let me use this word, professionalize urban development and development control. I am going to be very intentional with this. When I say professionalize, some people might say he's trying to get architects jobs and engineers. I want to state this. When we talk about professionalizing, I'm talking about doing things the right way, by law, by regulations, and for the good of the common public. So, for example, we have the building code. Is the building code meant for engineers and architects, or is the building code meant to be adhered to by anyone who's actually doing building? Because even if you get your fundi, and I'm happy I had that conversation around training plumbers and all these people. Does it mean that a mason in Ushago doesn't need to follow the building code because they're not professional? Okay? So when we talk about professionalizing the sector, we are talking about people adhering to the regulations and the laws that are in place. Because every law is there to protect the common good. When you talk about setbacks, if you are supposed to build your house 3 meters from the wall to the road, it is not space that is wasted. It is actually there for the common good, future expansion of road, service lines, and all those things. So when you talk about professionalizing, of course, it involves professionals, but it must start with us accepting the fact that the dosage of malaria is the same, whether it's administered by a witch doctor or by a medical doctor. You cannot change that dosage just because it's not an actual doctor giving it to you. I think it's very important to have participatory planning, and this is where residents just come in very much. And I'm going to really insist on this one, because even the current situation where we're talking about Nairobi now doing the development control policy, when they say they've done participatory, they've done public participation, which is there in the constitution, enshrined very well, but it's not very effective. So if you are going to someone living in a residence somewhere, and they don't know what plot ratios and ground covers are, and then you submit to them a list of tables saying in Kilipaklans, you will do plot ratio of 2, ground cover of 50%. If you go to Kakamega, CBD, you will do ground cover of 75%. How does that help that person? And then you get out of that meeting, say you did public participation. Now, when you talk about participatory planning, we're talking about reducing the message or the knowledge to the point whereby any person at the lowest point of the decision making will contribute. For example, and this is an argument we've had, I've just come from a 4-day workshop in Naivasha where we actually pushed for review of the policy for Nairobi development control. And one of our members actually presented a very simple sketch of images, visual images showing how you can do what we call setbacks of building using an inclination line, where you're saying if the street is here and all the rest of the building needs to be smaller the street and bigger as it goes back, there is a line that is drawn like this. and a council, and the council uses it as a reference for building control, development control. In Japan, they have gone to that level. In Europe, they've gone to the level where they can even define the colors that you can paint your buildings and the issues of the windows, the sizes, and all these kind of things. These are visual things. Anyone, even if you don't know plot ratio and ground cover, you can contribute and say, I think we cannot have this because that building is scary. Imagine walking next to a 20-story building which has been built all the way to the plot line, and you are walking here and the building is towering above you. What does that make you feel? So for me, that is what I'm calling participatory planning, which is also effective public participation. Of course, you have the responsibility for accountability and oversight, which I don't have to mention much about, and collaboration with experts becomes very important, and I'm glad we have this MOU because it helps us to find a way which we can exchange and give our expertise. Fourth is strengthening compliance. Issues of enforcement and compliance is a major problem in our country. It is not that there are no laws. Trust me, even if the laws have gaps, Kenyans are very good at exploiting those gaps or disregarding the law altogether. So it's one thing to keep pushing. We want a new law, we want a new regulation, we want this. But are we really following what is currently existing? Did you know that in the building code of 1968 that we've been using up to this February, the provision of the height of a perimeter wall was 3 feet. Up to February this year, you were supposed to do a perimeter wall of no taller than 3 feet. But what do we see in Nairobi? What do we see in Kisumu, Mombasa? Nobody actually, and this is just one example of it. So the question is it that a new law will make us comply? Is it that a new law, how do we enforce a new law? What makes it good? And I think it is incumbent upon us to start thinking about complying to the existing laws. The fifth issue is that, of course, we need to look at successful examples. I know in Kenya we have that good term of benchmarking. And benchmarking is about per diems and traveling. It's not really about going to see how things are done. And I wish maybe part of what Kara could be doing, and we can do that at AK, we have something called build tours, where we just go and visit places and look at what we can call best practices. Even here in Kenya, there are estates that are very nicely planned and they work. There are neighborhoods that look like they are working, whether it's by magic or by design, but they are working. And you can actually say this is what you can visualize how you want your community to look like. It's very important to identify them, highlight them, and document them for people to actually reference, because seeing is believing. Forgive the cliche. Of course, you have challenges, and I know most of the challenges, but especially for residences, is limited knowledge, particularly on some aspects. And I'm glad to hear there's already capacity building, some trainings, and all that, which I think is easily surmountable. Finally, my recommendation as from where I stand as representing AAK is that there's a lot of capacity building that needs to be done across board, particularly from even our city managers. I submitted a project a few years ago in Baringo, and the architectural drawings were stamped and the engineering drawings were swiftly returned, and we asked, okay, so what do you do the engineering? And they say, oh, we don't have a county engineer, you do whatever you want. Okay, Nairobi, capital city, does not have capacity to review, approve drawings, to inspect and make sure they are done properly. It doesn't, the capital city. Okay, we do not have enough architects, enough engineers, enough landscapers in this country. We do not have enough interior designers. That is the reality. Okay, we do not have enough builders, and at the rate at which our cities are growing, we might as well bring in the Chinese to work. And in fact, as AAK, we have acknowledged we're a global village, but the question is, how are they coming in? And are they operating by our rules or operating by their rules? Just because they are bringing in money, does it mean they can do what they want? Can we welcome them and then they operate within our rules? We need stronger partnerships. It's very important that we cannot do this without each other. You need to have everyone on board, because an urban center is a very complex place. A community, even an estate, is a very complex space. And if everyone is not speaking to each other, everyone is in his silo, everyone is in his eighth, everyone is within his boundary wall with broken glass on top, which by the way are illegal according to that building code of 1968. Having tall walls with glass on top is illegal. We need to consider technology and data. We have a very bad habit of not keeping records. With technology, with data, statistics, we can argue cases. If we are talking about, and I like what he said, in fact, I'm glad that I have been doing that and subconsciously, the idea of separating the garbage. Do we actually know whether people know that? And how many people are doing it? How much garbage do we get out of Nairobi? Think of solid waste management. It's a nightmare. If you don't know where all your solid is going and all your garbage from, your garbage from the house is going, what do you expect? When you see a fly coming back to your house, why are you surprised? Because you don't know where it's going and you don't care. So data, and how do we track these things? Lastly, the issue of legal policies is it's ongoing. And I think it's the whole aspect of pushing everything to, we need policies, we need the right regulations, we need new laws, we need new leaders. People have taken that as an excuse not to do something. And I know a lot of cities in South America, for example, most of them have people who are not professionals. Some of the best mayors in cities like Bogota were not architects, were not designers, they were called urban enthusiasts. Someone who has nothing to do with the design, but it's a human nature thing to know what a good plan is. And when you come there with a zeal, you can always get the right things done, and then the policy can follow. Because if you go to a nicely planned estate, you can say, this is how we want the estate. Now, can we develop a development control ordinance that is informed by this nice design that was done by some very, very moral funding somewhere? I thank you for your time, and I hope you don't have very hard questions for me after this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Architect Ndege. I think that was short and precise and to the point. And he's touched on main issues, some of them challenging us on what we need to do as a state association, but also just pointing to the fact that we need to, call it professionalize urban development. I think in simple terms, that means that don't go for shortcuts when they're doing the thing. Look for professionals so that at the end of the day, you have something that is sound and does not put you in danger later on. So I think we've heard what he said. I don't have to go through everything. He talked about participatory planning, compliance to existing laws. I think some professionals are guilty of also trying to circumvent the law, but mostly the people in the government are very notorious on this, trying to help us not to comply with the law. And then the best practices that we need to look at, and also issue of capacity building, and many other things. So let me allow us to react to that presentation. If you have any question, if you have any reaction, he's listening, he'll be able to respond effectively. Any takers for this? You can see hands there. Let me start at that corner, so the steering handles are first, as you come this.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Charity is my name. Speaking in regards to National Housing Corporation as a corporation. What if, being a government entity that is supposed to regulate all these policies, is actually practicing the latter, something like contrary to what they're supposed to instill? For instance, for example, you do an estate, which is supposed to be an estate that is a modern estate, without a children's playground. You do an estate and adjacent to it, you start building affordable housing that are shadowing the estate. And that is the national corporation trying to do that. How do we go about it? How do we navigate? How do we also defend our interests?
Thank you very much. I'll ask you a question. You also just mention your name and your association. There was a hand here.
Thank you. It's not, we have very few presidents in Kenya. My name is David Kili from Commonwealth Presidents Association. So when I wacha nikuite hivyo kwa sababu that's your position right now. We have 17 constituencies in Nairobi and say about 85 wards. Mine is just maybe to give a suggestion. As I know you have 17 architects who can be available, who can be incorporated in every constituency, then they can be incorporated in every association. Reason being, because we find it hard even to be able to handle some of these, let's say, developers. So if we work with somebody who is a professional, because we are talking about making things becoming professional, they will be working with us as associations to be able to approve some plans for these estates. So that we have somebody who is strong enough to fight for us at the end of the day. Because like us in Commonwealth, we find it very hard. You find even mosques being built within the estates. I don't know if the law allows it or not. You find very funny shanties coming within the estate. And then you find it very hard to find these people because one, maybe they are connected somewhere. So it's very hard for us to find them back. Mtu anakianga, polisi wako pale, you cannot even say anything. So me, I would suggest that you give us at least one architect in every constituency who will be incorporated in every residents association to be able to work with us directly, so that we know who we can carry to at the end of the day, so that you can get information from the ground. That's number one. Then number two, I just wanted maybe to add on the issue of there's something I suggested about the beam-to-beam building. The old estates like now Commonwealth are very old estates. We have some of these developers who come and demolish the house that was existing and build a new house that's around 4 floors. Now you find that us as associations, we cannot fight back when we don't have the right information from the right people. So maybe you can guide us on how to be able to handle the beam-to-beam people who end up building next to somebody who has not, I don't think even the courts allow it, but maybe you can guide us on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other question? Yeah.
Okay, my name is Karaja and I want to congratulate the new president, and I also thank the outgoing or the already emeritus president of AAK. And I think there are a number of things I wish we will have a meeting, Kara, you, Forrest, and George, because there are things that we never finished. And one of them is, and I want to make a comment on this, one of them is what is provided for in the Urban Areas and Cities Act. I am happy to hear that AAK, of course I knew about this, but it seems like architectures are running AAK more or less like alone. I don't know, but the fact that it is supposed to be an umbrella of other professionals in the build area, then AAK needs probably to have a roundtable with other organizations so that all those that are listed in build areas sit together and professionalize what you say. Because I am asking myself, I am from Kahaskai, this project or this development plan was initiated in 1982, those sites. We are almost 50 years. But do we have people like the person who thought about Kahaskai 43 years ago, thinking 50 years from now, 100 years from now, and we are professionals. So that is my question. Can we be able to bring these professionals that are responsible for urbanization together and do that at county level? And I like what you said, that constituency level. So you have a representative there, and even if we want to find a way of financing their stipend for whatever they do, probably responsible for residents associations to do this. The other issue that I wanted to ask, and this is also from my story of urban areas, is can we be able to identify or to have an audit of the municipal boards in the country and confirm we have the right representation from the bodies that are there, led by AAK. The other group of people is the liaison committee and the consultative forum for physical and land use planning. My final question is in terms of collaboration, and probably this Henry and Florence can answer, is this MOU we have with CARA, how does it relate to the resident associations? Thank you.
I have the mic, and I'm just going to add what we call here Karaja has touched it. I know in this city we have many people who are able to deal with Nairobi City Council professionally and head on. Being from the board, we have seen it. But I want to wonder, how can we collaborate with the AAK to make sure that the other 48 counties are covered? Is it 48? 46. It's the 8. I want to just imagine that the leadership of the residents associations here must come up with a way of supporting CARA and working together. Like every county, AAK will organize to create a transformational approach to urban planning. By city in Nanyuki, you go the innovation. Every other city. So that you are not having a challenge in Nairobi, you have a national challenge.
Okay, let's finish up the questions, making them, let's make it brief, because we want to.
Okay, my name is Joseph Kera. I'm also a member of AAK. I want to take the opportunity also to thank the current president, Francis Nyabe, who was able to sign an MOU together with CARA, I think sometime last year. We appreciate your concern and the way you have been able to be very, very vocal in terms of issues relating to resident associations. My take here is about the issues of, and I want to thank you, the incoming president, Barajoy. Thank you so much for being in that leadership style. My take here is about the Mkamjengo initiative. I think one of the things which is very, very important for us to note with AAK, we need to be able to understand what is Mkamjengo. Because there are many buildings which are coming in Nairobi, not just in Nairobi only, but all the counties in this nation, whereby there are substantial buildings which are coming up. Some are without approval, some are without getting the professionals involved. And you find that these are things which are coming out not within the law, but out of the law. Now, the issue is, I would like to ask AAK, because this is a very broad initiative, if they can go to partner with county governments, because county governments are the sort of enforcement people who check on the issues of QA together with the NCA. Because if I just say this is something which is being done unprofessionally, I will not have the enforcement criteria. So I think it's important for us to be able to have this thing first Because ACA may also be able to only go and close sites which they have been identified. They cannot be going to each and every site in this country. But since we are the residents, and we see a building is coming up which is not done professionally, or not done according to the change user methods, we can be able to have a scheme where we can do the whistleblowing, the various people who are supposed to be able to do those kind of criteria. And those people can only assist us because now AC has an enforcement act embodied in this 2024. So I think when the NCA is involved and the central government involved, now together with the AAK, I think the criteria of even going to do a joint inspection, random joint inspection within the sector. Thank you very much.
Asante sana, thank you. Let's have the last one. I see a hand up.
Good afternoon. I'm Silas Anjala, representing Lake Naivasha Riparian Association. My biggest concern is the opaqueness in the approval processes. How do we, for example, the biggest challenge we are facing in Naivasha is animal hall change of use and generally approval of development applications. We only come to realize things have happened once the developer starts putting up a structure. But the process of approval is always done in a way that the public have limited knowledge of how these things are done. And we only come to realize things have gone wrong once the developer is up and running. And this comes mainly from the physical planning department and also National Environment Management Authority. What advice can you give as resident associations on how best to engage so that we are part and parcel of this approval process? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Asante sana for those questions. I think we want to close so that we can get some responses. Yeah, the last one, please, very last one.
Okay, once again, I'm Solomon Juguna from the Goto Residents Association. Mine is on what you pointed out, the issue of the population explosion in Africa and in Kenya as well. What do we do about the proposed taxation of freehold land outside Nairobi? For example, I come from Kiambu. We understand that there's a lot of development because we have spilled out of Nairobi where there's no space. But the residents are also militant. We do not want our lands taxed because they are freehold lands. But at the same time, it is the only space left where people can develop. You know, like somebody is saying, we have a lot of coffee estates, then we do change of use and they become residential estates, which is okay. But at the same time, we don't want to be taxed because we feel that our land is ancestral, it is freehold, we don't want you there. What would you advise? You say we don't give you difficult questions. Because you are the president now, so you must handle these difficult questions.
Thank you so much for those questions. George will respond, and as George responds, we also talked about, we said that we had invited NEMA. We expect the DG here, but I'm told Veronica Kimutai is here from NEMA. So Veronica, please come and join us here at the front so that once George finishes responding, you can speak to us on what you want NEMA to speak to us. George, proceed.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking my advice to ask me hard questions. Wow, Charity asked that, yeah, so if the government is the one itself that is not actually following the laws that are in place, that's a very hard political question. And I think we can reflect on it from the perspective of, are we happy with the general level of governance in our country, for example? And you know, people could be complaining about the price of unga, or the school fees in Nepanda, or matatu is not working. But the reality is, the problem cut across. It's as that we are talking about built environment. So that is a very difficult question. But the good thing is that the solutions are there. but they're just not easy. They are not palatable to some people. If they were easy, we would have done them very fast. The other thing is that I know for sure that if you're trying to solve the problem by yourself, the easy route is to be immoral. But if you're trying to solve it as a community, you can do it the right way. So, I don't know the answer. I've evaded your question very fast. David Komarok, incorporation of professionals in the existing, very good idea. Actually, when we were in Naivasha, we were saying, can we look at the existing administrative units and allocate professionals for it? Like, can we have like a doctor for every ward, like a ward doctor? Can we have an engineer for this, these administrative? They are there. It's just that we only think about the MCAs and the local chiefs. Those are the people we think about, but we never think about professional. And I think it's a very good question. And to be honest, I agree with you. We really need experts in every area of this administration. The issue of densification is real, and you say someone demolishes a small house and builds a big house. This connects to the issue of change of user, because that issue of change of user has been exploited and it's being abused. In fact, when we were in Naivasha, we advised Nairobi that please put a hold to change of user with immediate effect. It does not make sense for you to come up with zoning guidelines and say, upper you can build this, upper you can build this. Then at the same breath, you're saying you can come and apply to change that zoning guideline. So those are not things that are supposed to work together. It doesn't make sense. If you have a good zoning plan, change of user is irrelevant. So I hope I've also responded to that slowly, but I'll come back to it kidogo. Thank you, Karanja, for congratulating us. I think it's a responsibility we are taking. In fact, by the way, it's a voluntary position. So it's a very difficult decision to make, because you love to bed, you are 50% of your time instead of doing your business, you're doing this. So I appreciate, and I hope we will get support so that we can keep going. Round tables for AAK to explain these things, to discuss the various regulations. I think it's necessary, and this is one of the things we discuss as part of our MOUs, deliverables, where we'll be having joint sessions, because there are very many laws actually, and in Kenya we love laws. If you go and check the ones just governing planning and city, there are so many. Some of them were never implemented. Some of them become mahali as some being in act, working drafts in the upcoming. Okay. I will leave the president to talk about the MOU because she started it. Our past president, that is, she will mention something about what it is that we are doing. How to deal with the county managers. I like that. Mzee, sorry, I didn't pick your name. You mentioned that Nairobi. Okay? Reverend. I think. Fantastic. Fantastic, Kanake, Reverend. In Nairobi, we have methods of dealing with it, yeah, and I like the fact that you are talking about how do we do it across the country. In fact, I can announce here, our convention this year, we are planning to go to Kisumu, and we are planning to engage Kisumu as an intermediary city, secondary city, which are growing very fast. And our intention as AAK is actually to set up a location across the country. Because we realize there's no way you can be talking like our politician who win an election of an MCA somewhere in Nyamira County, and the first thing they do is relocate to Nairobi. We want to be on the ground. When we are dealing with issues, it's way better. So we are going, as AAK, that's our mandate really, to create a transformational approach to these issues of city planning. It is a long-term game. I might borrow a phrase. It is a long-term game, and we all cannot afford to give up. Because if we give up, we might as well not have kids. Because you'll be leaving them in a very bad place. Joseph, you talked about Mulika Mjengo. Just to mention, Mulika Mjengo was essentially supposed to be a platform for residents to report. So we have this platform where residents report something which they don't like. And also, it's actually currently being run in collaboration with NCA, for example. But it's the idea of just highlighting the issues that are there. And we know people don't know how to highlight the problems, but we have a sieve where you can report something, and then we can check whether it actually deserves that. But it is something we are working on to see how we can scale it up to a point whereby we are essentially snitching on each other, especially people who are doing bad things. And we know this because 85%, according to NCA and the Nairobi National Building Inspectorate, 85% of all our construction projects, including Nairobi, do not involve professionals and are being done irregularly. That is the reality. And we know it. And I want to give this analogy again, it might hit home. Imagine if 80% of Kenyans prefer to go to witch doctors as opposed to hospitals. That is what is happening in our built environment. And the result may not be seen immediately, but it is the speed at which this irregularity is happening is so exponential that by in the next 20 years or so, Nairobi's population will have doubled. Then the pressure will start appearing, where you're very close to your neighbor, and even when you're talking to in your house, your neighbor can hear even if you are whispering. And then you start realizing that there's a problem, but it might be too late. Maybe we just need to close some of our big cities like Nairobi, Nakuru, and move and start new cities elsewhere. Maybe that's what will happen, but I hope we'll find a solution very fast. How best for resident associations to engage in development control? I will give you this is also something we are working on because there's a big problem. This was Silas saying, there's a big problem for change of use and opaqueness. This is all by design. We as AK were collaborated with World Bank a couple of years ago to start online systems for approvals, which was supposed to remove the human hand and also fast track the process and automate it. What do the good officers at the counties do? They make sure the system is not working. So for example in Kiambu, they say the system is not working because the officer who was there, I think he was fired, went wrong with the password. Now, they decided what? Close the system, let's go manual. Think of it this way. For every M-Pesa transaction that is going wrong and people are complaining, M-Pesa decides, you know what, this is not working, we close down. We were asking, if in Kenya we can pass trillions of shillings and trust people through our phones, why is it so difficult for us to trust each other when it comes to development control using IT or systems? It is intentional for these things not to work. So how do resident associations engage in development control? It has to start with you having your future dream. A couple of years ago, I was involved in a project called Victoria Korogosho, where we went there with, that is Korogosho informal settlements, with UN Habitat. I was a young graduate and a couple of people from Nairobi City Council, Safer Nairobi Initiative. And we had workshops, and we received ideas from kids and mothers and men and young men on their idea of what they want their place to be like. And we translated that into urban designs and architectural designs. And that was supposed to be the dream that they were going to hold their authorities to. Resident associations do not wait to react to problems. You have the best time to start is right now. Develop the dream through what we call local physical development planning plans, LPDPs. Sit together, come up with that dream. Get professionals to help you generate them into documents, technical documents, and hold your leaders accountable. Right now, I know a lot of you are taking, especially in Nairobi, they are taking City Hall to court, and City Hall is really crying. In fact, if you went there with a plan and tell the judge, this is our plan, we have all agreed, can this be accepted and be legally the documents for our future? Trust me, the problem that we're starting to see right now, even if it takes long, it will change. My final comment would be on taxation on freehold land and people going out. Now, here's the thing. I want to burst a bubble. It is going to change. In fact, the way things are going, because we're not planning, I don't know that you've been to Kisii in Nyamira County. If you take a drone look at Kisii and Nyamira County, you'll think the whole place is a town. Because towns grow along any route and everywhere. Okay? We are not doing what we call densification, what we call 15-minute cities, where people are clustered in one place, and then the rest of the land is left out intentionally through planning. Yeah, we have something called national plan, spatial plan for Kenya, where you say this area is for cultivating coffee, this area is for maize, this area is for living, where you stay and you agree you're going to live here, and the rest of it you're going to leave it for production of food and all these things. We don't have that. So what is happening is that people are spreading everywhere, and you have challenges of cities like Kisumu and other places where, actually most of the counties, you'll find people burying people in what we call municipal land right now because it's their land and culturally they bury them there. But that is going to change. Issues of taxation, despite the fact that they are not respected, and it's good that we don't trust where our tax is going, and that's the genesis. The problem is not that we don't want to pay tax. The problem is that we are afraid we are giving money for free. But the reality is, there's something called land value capture. As populations grow and countries develop, governments must find ways of getting the value of that land appropriately. Why? Because the more you spread out, the costly it becomes to do infrastructure. There's a cost to building roads, a cost to building steamer. And the further away people spread, the more expensive it becomes to pull a line all the way. If planning is done, you can concentrate people and sewer lines and everything will become cheaper. So the issue is that taxation will come. The only question is how. The other thing is that how do you then make sure that we don't do what we call urban sprawl? Urban sprawl is where everyone goes to the cheapest land. The outskirts of Nairobi, land inapanda mnasonga nje kidogo, inapanda mnasonga nje kidogo. And then at one point, as residents, you start shouting to the government with good reason, I need power in my land. And the government wanting to make money will come and say, we want to tax you. And then you tell them, I want road here. So now this is a case of an egg and the chicken. What comes first? And this is where we as professionals come in, where we say, you don't accept mediocrity by insisting, this is our dream, and we want it to be planned. And everyone must be on board so that by the time we are talking about Murang'a County, the extent of the city is here. Beyond here, you can't do, even if it's freehold land. We have to determine. Because if you go to other countries, even holding a big parcel of land is taxed. So that you cannot hold land for the sake of having land. You have to show that you are going to be productive in that land. So if you have idle land, you pay tax. So that you are encouraged to be productive. But I'm not suggesting anything about taxes and everything. I'm not a tax expert. All I know is that with the current growth of population and the current unchecked planning, it might be very difficult in the future to determine the boundary of a city. And that will be complex when it comes to taxing and management of urban areas. I want to Florence maybe to respond to one or two things. I'm sure she wants to top up, and then I hope I don't have to speak again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You know, I'm learning that it's illegal to speak after the president. So, but because they have asked me to communicate a few more things based on our MOU that we had before, I'll just read them out. The MOU is, I think, should be a public document. We had 5 main objectives and how we're going to relate to the residents associations. And how this came about is that AK cannot be everywhere, but residents associations in their own individual areas are actually everywhere. And we realize we need to start cascading our what we call ourselves high tower, where we're just working at the top. We need to cascade down so that we're able to reach the common man and reach that resident literally where they are. And that was the spirit with which we came up with this MOU. And we had 5 areas, which was on public awareness and education campaigns to sensitize residents associations on sustainable urban development. That has already been stated. In fact, that's the discussion that is going on here. And we've already started working on that. We went to Mihango, where Joseph comes from. He was actually there as a member of AK, but also as a member of the Residents Association. So you see, that collaborative effort is that you're using, this is the question that we're talking about, having an architect in the locality dealing with the Residents Association. That is what Joseph is doing. We're hoping to replicate Joseph, your model, across the country. That's what they're asking for. I think that's the spirit which you're talking about. And the gentleman was talking about the 17 sub-counties, and then going down to the ward level, to cascade our numbers from being at national level all the way down. I believe that's the spirit in which we are discussing. Then to advocate for enforcement of policies and laws on land use and infrastructure planning and development control. I think that is something we're already doing. Arabu sits in that committee that is looking at the new laws. I think right now it's the professionals and the county, and I believe with time they'll actually have now professionals, county, and residents associations, because that I think is the next level where they'll be looking at the LPPPs. And for us as AK, we've actually started doing this a specific MOU with KPF, which is a part of CARA, as a residents association, because AK also has a home. We also resident somewhere, and it's in Kilimani, and so our resident association there, then we are dealing with it at that particular point. Then the use of technology to empower residents in various neighborhoods to identify and report unsafe buildings and construction sites. And that's why they are talking about the Mulika Mjengo initiative. The Mulika Mjengo initiative, maybe just to expound, and I can see that there was a question around it. We launched it in 2024, and as at the end of 2024, 2025, when I was doing the report yesterday, we visited 53 sites, AK, in our own way. We are not government, we are no one, but we've received many reports. Some reports, sometimes don't have sufficient information, but it's actually like being ticked anonymously. Come, check, somebody's building something here. And I think this tool can really be deployed to all residents associations, so that issues that you're facing, for instance, in Komarok, where definitely somebody is building in a place that was originally designated for single dwelling, they're not doing a multi-dwelling, that is really going against the law. And if you can report that to us, we come and see if we do a report on the same. And what we are saying in terms of collaboration, and we were talking about also having NCA coming on board to come and see these places. What we've done is that there is a multi-sectoral agency coordination committee that is government-led. It has NCA, it has NBI, which is the National Building Inspectorate. It's got the State Department of Roads, because of construction roads. It has the State Department of Public Works, which is the convener. It has our boards, which regulate us as professions. That's Borax, EBK, and PPRB, who are part of that particular conversation, and NCA, of course. Now, we were asking, when we're doing all these things, we've not seen residents associations in that committee, we are not seeing professionals in that committee. So what we've done is that we've taken our Mulika Mjengo 50+ report and we've submitted to the State Department of Public Works, and we are actually the ones now telling them, you must include us, because we're already doing the work at resident level. You're already doing the Mulika, we're already Mulika in those Mjengos. Tag us along, and we work together. So that's one of the things we're doing, and I think residents associations can then come on board to help us in the same. And so this Mulika Mjengo, I think, is a great initiative that residents associations to be there. Joint participation in relevant forums, conferences, and seminars, this is one of them. So we are ticking our boxes. If we were to do the work plan and MOVs, we can verify that. In fact, the top leadership of AK was here for this event. And likewise, CARA has been at AK events, the Mulika Mjengo and Jonah Mjengo initiative. And we hope to do many more of these. Just invite us. I think some residents associations actually invite us to go. Like we got an invitation to Ngong, when I think launching the Kajiado North Residents Association, and we had a whole day of discussion around urban planning. And you know how Kajiado is right now, it's also another hotspot. That happened in, I think in the month of July, yeah? Was it June, July last year? Then of course development of policy publications where necessary, and other forms of cooperation as the parties may agree upon. I think that's also quite useful. Even as we're dealing with this, there's something that might come out of our conversation and our engagement that may need to go into some regulations of sorts. Right now, as we speak, there are many regulations, and my president has now talked about the fact that there's a lot of policy, a lot of legal. We have all the legal mechanisms to deal with this, but the challenge we are having is enforcement, compliance. the boots on the ground are not sufficient to actually carry out this work. And the boots on the ground, unfortunately, are also compromised. So that becomes a very big challenge. So I think in long and short is that even as we deal with these issues around urban development, the only way it can work is if we're really at the grassroots of it all, at the resident level, because it's the resident who ends up being the one who suffers the most. It's the residents who get to feel this at the end of the day. And so for us, we have to cascade from national level, we have big level areas, and then we're going there. And I'll say that AK, we're not a very large body so that we have everyone, but I think a suggestion to have architects in every ward, can you imagine? That would create one, employment for all professionals if it is actually put in law, and then number two, it will ensure that that professional or that group of professionals, let's assume you had an architect, a planner, an engineer dealing with that particular ward, they are in charge. If something goes wrong, we know now, namulika sasa, sasa namulika professional at the end of the day. Last but not least, I think is just to say that even as some of us exit, is to also say that I think today was a very good opportunity for George to say that his first order of business was to actually deal with issues that affect the residents in the country. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and thank you so much for giving us that space.
Thank you so much for those reactions and for answering the questions competently. I know this is always a hot issue, issues around built environment, urban development and all that, and we can spend a whole day talking about it because there are so many issues around this particular sector. But I believe we've been able to get something useful from this conversation, and of course we've been able to demonstrate that working together we can be able to achieve much more. That is CARA and AK. So ladies and gentlemen, I know we are running out of energy. We've been here for some time, but I hope that the little energy that you have, you can spare it for our friends from NEMA. We say that we had invited them to come, so that you can listen briefly on a very specific subject. I know we have so many issues around NEMA, and I know we have a number of complaints and things that we would like to tell NEMA, and we can spend a whole day doing that. But today, we specifically asked NEMA to just talk to us briefly about this new law, the Sustainable Waste Management Act, and specifically in regard to how it affects households and by extension, the resident associations. You know, there's the transition from linear approach to waste management to the circular approach to waste management. And it has come with a very many requirements. I know the regulations are in place and many other things are happening. So Veronica Kimutai from NEMA, if you could just spend even just 5 minutes, just tell us just about that, because we have run out of time, and hope that we can close the next 15 minutes. So to take 5 minutes to talk about that, we take maybe another 10 minutes to take any questions that we have, and then we close. So you want to leave? Okay, thank you so much. Asante sana for creating time.
All right.
Please clap for our guest as well. So let's listen to Veronica, please, just for 5 minutes, and then we can close. As you also introduce yourself and what you do at NEMA. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Veronica Kimutai. I am environmental. I work with the enforcement department, specifically environmental audit. So the Director General was supposed to come and make the presentation, but because of the work he had, I think he said that he wanted to go to the ministry to do ABCD. He appointed me to come and just have a small word with you. So NEMA, as each one of you know, is dealing with the environmental matters, and it was established in 1999, yes. And it was established under Environmental Management and Coordination Act of 1999. So that is the mother law. and it is dealing with environmental matters. And one of the provision is to ensure, one of the main provision of that act is to ensure there is clean and healthy environment for the Kenyans. So under that act, there are several regulations. One of them is environmental impact assessment, and I think most of you are aware of that. We also have the water quality, which is still also relevant to the Residents Association. We have the waste management regulations under that MCA. But along the way, we found that solid waste management has become an issue in the country. True or false? I mean, when you just look at around, we are just in a mess. So we came up with a new law, which is called Sustainable Waste Management Act of 2022. And the main thing in that act is about segregation of that waste. Segregation of that waste from the point of generation. And you find that who are the main generators of waste? Households. Our residential places, our household. So that law gives the responsibility household to ensure that the waste are segregated so that when it moves now from that point of generation to the next, it is almost clean and they are almost clear. Such that you find that there will be segregation of the organic, there will be segregation of recyclable materials, there will be that general waste. And that general waste may be ending up at the dump site. So the main purpose of the sustainable waste management is to reduce the waste which goes to let's call it our landfills. Do we have the landfills? But that is what we are working towards. At least we have started a process, but slowly by slowly we'll be able to refine from the point of generation to the point of disposal. And that is what we are starting at the moment. So what about this environmental impact assessment? How is it affecting the residential associations, the residents association? That law says that for any new development, because residential homes are developments, they are supposed to do what we call environmental impact assessment, and they are supposed to ensure that that development does not affect the environment in any way, from the point of development to the point of operation to the point of decommissioning. So you find that the things we look for in an environmental impact assessment, which really affects the residential places, the water quality, the wastewater. When you come up with a building, those tall buildings, those many townhouses, where does that gray water, that sewage, the black water, where does it go? So those are the things we look at. Because when you look at the moment, especially like Nairobi and the surrounding counties, you find that most residential homes are not connected to the sewer line, and it is really an issue. You go to Kajiado, Kitengela, you go to Athi River, you go to Kiambu. The apartments are so huge, but the infrastructure which is in place to collect that wastewater and treat, that is the septic tanks, are so small. So you find that all the time the wastewater raw sewage goes to the environment. So that is the importance of looking at environmental impact assessment for any project, for any residential homes. The other purpose of the environmental impact assessment is also a tool to allow the neighbors, the neighboring communities in that proposed project to have a say. So we encourage, the laws encourages the public participation, and I think most of you have been participating. So all your opinions at that point of process is very key, because once that project is up, you are going to be affected also. I'll just talk so quickly. The other thing which we've talked about is that waste management. We've talked over, it is talking about the segregation of waste from the point of generation to the point of disposal. But what is the role? I'm happy, I think it's an opportunity, and I thank Ara that you brought all the chairs of Residents Association, because our success is always at the household. The entry point of success for the authority is, in terms of the waste management, is the household, isn't it? So you are going to be the champions, you are going to be the ones who are going to spread the word that it is the responsibility of every person, and a person is within a household, to ensure that the solid waste management are separated and it is passed from that point to the next in a separated way. That Sustainable Waste Management Act of 2022 talks about material recovery facilities. So we are hoping that once the waste is segregated from point of generation, that is at household, it goes to the material recovery facility. That is the facility whereby the recyclables, things of value are going to be sorted, and it is channeled to the recycling facilities. So you can see that the waste will not be, it will not be waste, but it will be a raw material to something else. So we are going to encourage what we call circularity, so that most of the things which are produced will remain in use for a long time before it goes to for the landfilling, for the final disposal. So the MRFs, their purpose is to segregate these recyclable materials into further streams, like the plastics, like the metals, and so forth, and it goes to various recycling plants. Others will go now, the residual will go to the disposal site, or it goes to the incineration. That is still part of treatment. So my cry, my request is to pass the word to your residents. All of us belongs to a residents association. Just ensure that, just pass the word that they need to have now like 3 bins, so that they segregate according to what the law says, the organic, the recyclables, and the general waste. And then from there, I know there will be a lot of challenges, then from there now it moves to the transporters. And those are the people we are also going to educate on how they are going to handle the waste. And from there it goes up to now to the end, the recyclers and to the final disposal areas. So MRFs, according to the law, it is the responsibility of the county governments, but we also encourage the private sectors. And I think there are those private sectors which are already up and they are doing that work. So I think that is what I had for you today. I think
That's okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Because if I say that, I can see some hands already up. Can you give a clap, please?
Haikuwa moto sana.
I thought there was going to be no questions because people are tired. But it seems we are still on. Okay, let's proceed with the question, please. Brief to the point. Starting with you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Naomi Ndoka from Chisiko Resident Association. My question is to NEMA. We had a developer who came to our estate and decided to put up a 10-story building in the middle of one single dwelling estate. And so we had a battle. We went to the NEMA tribunal. We won the battle. We won the case. And the tribunal ordered NEMA to bring down this building. They had not gone very far. They got to second floor. So the tribunal ordered NEMA to bring down the building at the cost of the developer. So the developer appealed. And we won the case, the High Court. So the High Court judge still upheld the judgment that was given by the NEMA tribunal. So my question is to NEMA, when are you bringing down this building?
Thank you very much for that question. The mic here.
Madam NEMA.
Madam Kimutai.
And you can introduce yourself.
Yes, Gatonye Kariuki, Jumbi Road Residents Association. It is good to have you here because I'm sure there's a lot of graphs with NEMA and City. And our main problem is that, especially on approvals, like you've had the lady say, NEMA is at the forefront with City Hall of approving what the residents have not accepted. So after that, we have to go get lawyers to go to the tribunal. Now, you've got your EIA experts. How do you punish them, or what is the recourse for the Residents Association when you've got your officers, when you've got the environmental experts who passed that the residents have passed, when the residents have said no, like in our case, we had your whole team from Nairobi. We had Lopopait, we had Irongo, we had Gavgala, and they came and we told them of our situation. And they went and passed what we had not accepted in a zone 5. And from there, after a lot of pressure, Lopokoit goes and now writes a letter of cancellation of his earlier license, consent license. But the construction still continues. He gives a letter and does. Now, that is one part on the weakness of NEMA not doing the right thing. Now, number 2, the issue of MRS, as you call it. Yes, these are resident people who represent residential associations. How many schools have you gone to in form of standard 1 to teach the children at that level about the distribution and separation of waste? That's where it should start from. When that child becomes trained in how to separate waste, you'll find it will be very easy in the households for that waste to be separated. You can come and preach to these old people, but quite a few of them have house helps, and the waste is waste. So if the children were trained, it would be very easy for them to also even train the house helps. And even at home, because they are the ones who are more up, their hands are easier to handle that waste. And then whatever you're trying to achieve will be very easily achieved in terms of waste. There's much more that I can say, but we do not have time. And unfortunately, I believe your Director General was very busy. He could not come and meet the people whom you asked to give clearances for all the messes that are there. Going to government offices, don't forget that government officers are employed by these people. And that is where government officers are going wrong. Once they get their little ticket to the job, they take it as a place to be collecting money. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Don't say you don't know. And from there, they look down on their employers. If you change that attitude and you became helpful, Architectural Society was here. We don't pay them, but they come and spend the whole morning with us. All these gentlemen and lady you see here working with Kara, it's all pro bono. You who is employed by us are the ones who do not have time for your employees. So tell your Director General, we are not happy. He should come here and spend the whole day with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Richard Kimoro from Common Residents Association. Just a few points. Number one is that you've talked about your success being you, the NEMA, working together with the residents associations. I want to pick from where my friend has ended. Now, this being the case, and if you are to succeed as NEMA, the question is this. Whenever residents association, they write to you, even with the signatures, about an illegal construction, our biggest concern is that NEMA will still go ahead and support the developer against the residents. Now, this does not add up. I think something needs to be done from NEMA's side, that if you are to succeed by the resident associations, then there must be that collaboration. All these resident associations who are here, we are all registered by the government of Kenya with very clear objectives as to what we are supposed to do. And what we do ourselves here, we do it with the mandate given to us by the resident that we represent. Therefore, mine would be to request you that whenever resident associations have come to you, then, for example, if somebody is doing like the one now has talked about, the people around there, they have already said that that building is not supposed to be there. In Komarok, we have seen guys who build, even to an extent of blocking the sewer line, the drainages, and yet NEMA does not come and tell them to stop doing that. I think something needs to be done about that. Secondly, on the segregation, one is this law. When was it supposed to be effective? It still is there now, or it seems, you know, laws are passed with that's going to start working from a certain time. Maybe my question is whether when we were the effective date, because why I'm asking that is that NEMA together with the resident association, there's need for you guys and us to start now working to be able to sensitize or to be able to educate our people on the issue, especially where it comes to penalties, so that we don't end up by our residents being caught on the wrong side of the law and then being punished while we have come here to attend such a meeting with you. Therefore, we need now from here to be able to move forward and ensure that this is done from the resident association. Thirdly, as I close, the waste collectors. You've talked about training them and things like that. One of the things that is happening with these waste collectors, and many of them, they'll come and say that they have been approved by NEMA. The question is, even with that one, with that approval from NEMA, they are the same guys who go dumping this waste in the place where they are not supposed to dump it. Then we come and say, our town is very dirty and things like that. Now, who approved this guy who does not know where the landfills are, and then he goes dumping waste wherever he wants to go, and you go to him, he tells you that he has a NEMA, he has been approved by NEMA. Because the point here would be, the training by the waste collectors cannot be effective, cannot be complete, because these waste collectors are employed by us. They come to us to pay them to do the collection. So we need also to have an input as to that, their training, so that because this law touches both on household failure to segregate. It also touches on the waste collectors for them to collect waste that is not segregated. Therefore, these need to be put together so that we can have an effective way of managing our solid waste. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's try and be short, please. Next, please. Let's try and be short. If possible, let's just ask one question so that more of us can do that.
Thank you. My name is Moses Kennedy from the Water Residents Association, but the umbrella body is Akin Association of Kiambu. We have two issues, and I'm happy that you said that your area is environmental audit. The resident associations have one problem with NEMA, and especially your department. Because in Kiambu, we have two issues, one at Northland View. The residents have gone all along and they have written to NEMA and written to your office on the impact of that cement industry that was to be put up. But surprisingly enough, you and I think the national leadership that says that they are listening to the crowd, I think you listen to a different crowd. Because your department has already given them a NEMA approval to put up a cement factory, is it a cement or this cabro there, and the residents have had meetings that have been publicized everywhere, but NEMA have their people on the ground who they have reason to and approved. I come home. In my own area, and I'm happy, and I don't know why David Wakoge here is not talking. This one. Because still your department, someone comes up and says, wants to put up a gas producing, a gas something. And we on the ground, including this one who neighbors that factory, and they are told that NEMA came to the crowd and reasoned to the people, I am a neighbor, I don't even know, but you people have other years on the ground that you give that approval. Why do you have to be that smart?
Thank you.
I can answer.
Well, no, let's take the last two, please. And then you could manage. I need others to close. Let's take those last two. And please, brief. Let's be brief.
Thank you, Madam. From the Water Residents Association, I'm Dr. Rose Higa. And my questions are, but I hope you're going to respond to them. Some of them have been addressed by people from my Residents Association, but I want to ask, we find diapers all over, and yet, even when people complain to NEMA, I don't know whether, okay, the people on the ground, I think they should have some, they should come to the people and talk to them about how to manage those diapers, because for me, I feel like they are unnecessary evil, because they have blocked all the rivers, every other place. I guess it's not just in the water where it is, it's a major problem. Madam from NEMA, I wonder which ground you're from. There's also another problem. The liquid waste in rivers, including Nairobi River. Anytime the rain starts, even not the rain starting, when it looks cloudy, there are people who normally let their wastage, their liquid waste, into the drainage systems, and they find their waste to the river. Madam, if there are people from NEMA, surely, what are you doing about it? I also find like nylon papers, they have come back. Yet it was a policy in Kenya that we should not have those small nylon papers being packed full. But today, I don't think it's only in Kiambu. Do we have them in Nairobi? Yes, we do. And so, Madam, I think you are failing us in a great way. your office, not you as a person. We also find that there are very few dustbins, even in Nairobi town. Go to Kikuyu, where I belong to. Even in the bus stop, you keep on holding a banana, whatever, peel, because you have no place to pray. But if you throw it, the Kajobi will be there to tell you that you are, So my dear Madam from NEMA, my last question is, did NEMA die with the late Honorable Mishuki, or is it still there? God bless you as you try to come up with something.
Thank you so much. Yeah, at the back.
Good afternoon once again. I'm Silas Wajala, like Naivasha Riparian Association. Mine is a request to the director, please pass this to him. Ask him to come down to Lake Naivasha with his technical team and assess all the approvals he's given. NEMA is contributing towards the killing of Lake Naivasha. Thank you.
Thank you for being so precise. Last one. Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. This is Engineer Geshe Karanja. First of all, I think it is good that you agreed to come as NEMA. But my question is a question, or it is difficult to put it. How do you expect the resident association to do what you're asking in this new act, while you have failed them in all other things, because you are not able to enforce? And I give examples. You talk about rivers. If you look at Nairobi rivers or Kiambu rivers, they are all now brown, no black even. That's what you say. What is it? Is NEMA still relevant? Is it still relevant even to think about this regulation that you're talking about? So this, to me, I think it is the most important question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Asante sana. Veronica, I know we asked to talk about solid waste, but I also told you that our members are very keen on the work of NEMA because some of these things are emotional. So please try and respond to the questions.
Thank you very much. I think I'll start with the earliest. The latest, Engineer Karanja. I think you say that all our rivers are black. And I think I mentioned when we are looking at our water quality regulations that it is the responsibility, and I think it is important even the AAK is around, because you are the ones who draw the plans and look at the functionality of the building and all other infrastructure, isn't it? You know the capacity of the building. You know the volume of wastewater which is going to be generated, and therefore AAK, the architects, you are supposed, in fact, you are the people whom we are trying to, so that you guide also the investors on what to put up. Because I've told you, when we go for the inspections, the main problems are those wastewater. And the problem is the capacity of the septic tanks, the conservancy, the wastewater treatment plant. So this work is not only for NEMA. The problem starts from the beginning, and that the beginning starts from the architect. So architects, we need to work together, so that we don't just put up structures and to portray an image to the investor that the building is going to be cheap. If the infrastructure, the wastewater, the septic tank is not able to hold that wastewater, I'm telling you, it is going to be very expensive for the investor. Because when I'm in the field, when you ask the investors how many times they exhaust their septic tanks, others twice in a week. Is that sustainable? It's not sustainable. So what happens? They let out the wastewater.
So I think it is our responsibility for each one of us as a Kenyan, an architect, an environmentalist, the residents, we have a responsibility, we all have to work together. So that black water, because of the incapacity of the wastewater treatment plants, they end up being in our rivers. And also when you look at the wastewater which goes to the rivers, most of them are originating from the informal settlements. And I think you can see the government is trying to remove those the informal settlements. It is a task and a half, but we have to start and we have to do something. But I know when you look at our rivers, it is not impressive, but we all have to work together. And I urge the architects, kindly help us to ensure that those septic tanks, if those apartments are not connected to the sewer lines, for sure, that is what is going to happen. And even if we try to enforce, it can't work. You go to other places, you find that even the septic tanks are not lined. Huh? When it rains, you can see the water level rising, and it displaces them. Yeah, so the problem is not only one institution, it is all of us. Let us all do the right thing for ourselves and for the nation. Silas, a request. You are from Riparian community, Naivasha. I'll pass that request to the Director General. And I think your main issue is about the dying of Lake Naivasha.
As a result of everyone is just constructing on the riparian land, and all developers have name approval and physical plans. Where do we go? Once you press on, they only issue stop orders, and the developer ignores the stop orders.
There is a regulation on wetlands, and there is a lot of emphasis on the riparian belt, the reserve. So and it's going to be out very soon, and I think that is what is going to assist.
We want the director to come.
They will come. I'll take that message for sure.
Let them reverse.
Yeah, because we are all Kenyans and we want to see a better place.
I think now what we are hearing from you is a cry like us. You are also.
No. We work together.
Okay, let's have some order.
Thank you.
We need for that country to have that. Let us respond. Allow to respond in silence. Proceed.
We are all one. Dr. Ross, the diapers. Yeah, we belong to that age of napkins. We always advocate for that because, but it is the generation. What can we do? But to mitigate that, we have a regulation which is up and running. No, it will be, I think, in May, because I think there was a transition period in May. So it is about extended producer responsibility. And that regulation gives a responsibility to the producer. The producer can be somebody who is importing outside or manufacturing locally. And there is a fast schedule, and diapers is part of it. So that is a regulation. They will be able to regulate themselves. The law says that they are supposed to enroll, to subscribe to what we call producer responsibility organization. And that producer responsibility organization, they are going to have their house in order. Meaning that any diaper or any other item listed in that first schedule are going to take care of that item from the point it is going to be used to the point it becomes a waste, yes, until the final end. So continual improvement. You talked of the wastewater, I think, yeah, that is an experience on the ground, where when it rains, you find that because of that septic tank, that wastewater infrastructure, not sufficient to hold the water, the grey water, the wastewater. So what happens, when it rains, they suck, and then they just, those are the experiences we get from the ground, but we are working on them. But looking at the experience from the ground, I think we need to treat that problem from the time of the drawing, the design, and the actual building of that apartment, including also all other infrastructure. That is what we think it should happen. And AAK, I'm still requesting that be that control point. Plastic bags, it's not easy. We are still on the ground. You are, in fact, we are in the field. Even right now, others are in the field, fighting those the plastic bags. But at least you can see it's no longer so bad, but they are there. That is Rose, Dr. Rose Kokoto. Moses Kinobia, Kiambu Association. You are talking of that building blocks manufacturing plant. I think that is something I have to check. You know, we are handling so much, by the way. Everything, whatever happens in this country, necessity. So some will be aware, another person within the authority can be aware, but I am going to make a follow-up. Similar to the plant producing gas, producing plant. Richard Komarov. I think the same issue that we are siding with the developer. In most cases, you know, there are two parties, and they are. I may not have the exact project you are talking about, and I may not have the details, but when a project proponent gives us their projects to the field, we look at both parties. We look at the existing laws. We look at even the ones from the county government. So when we approve, it does not necessarily mean that whatever you are thinking, because somebody says, I know what you know what I'm talking about. But sometimes it is just that. Because you weigh all this on both sides, because we all have, development has to be there. And we weigh. Not illegal.
Yes. What we are talking about is the illegal, your offices passing illegal developments.
Yeah. And I think the problem also arises from this resonation from the county government. I think there is an issue here, say that Naomi, saying that you are living in a townhouse, not the townhouses, a single dwelling estate. I can imagine Kilelesho, I can imagine all those places. But now the problem sometimes arises when the county government does the rezoning, and then they allow mixed dwelling, and it comes to us. So there are documents we also we base our approvals on, and one of them is the zonation of the county government, and also the approval. Yeah, that is the main problem. I wish when they do the zonation, they also do things further than that.
In our case, it was not corruption. And by the way, I had the county government technical committee revoke the plan
Okay,
So it
inside.
has already been revoked.
Okay.
So the board is in your court.
No, I was, oh yeah, the bringing down, but I was saying the problem with the restoration.
It is all corruption, madam.
If document now comes and they are saying, Lavington, it is like this, Leleshwa, that is where the problem also starts.
But also I think each person should play their part.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Don't blame him.
Richard also talked about collaboration in sensitizing the residents. I think that is a good way forward. We have a directorate which is dealing fully with awareness creation, and I think that is what we are going to do. We'll do it together. And you talked of we should be done in conjunction with the waste collectors, the waste service providers. To karaoke, my friend. I think you've mentioned about that there is a problem between Emma and the city hall.
Yes. Both passing the plans with our objections, and then later coming to receive that after that it's at a long stop. The last relocation of City Hall were held by CAN. Your director of Nairobi did his revocation after he had passed the things when we had been on site with him 3 times and written our objections and the zoning, showing him the zoning. Yes, so
it is a process. It is a process, and also it's not easy.
No, it's not a process. It's just ignoring.
So at least there was that process.
Yes,
Finally,
we did the process, but I
Order
guess
from above.
Yes, or whatever made whatever made.
so that is why there is that struggle. But finally, the objective was met.
We are not
And because that is the process of when I say no, when we say no as the authority, they also come to us. When we do it, you also come. So it is just that process, and continue advocating that way because it's a process.
We done our objection long before they start.
But I'll still make a follow-up with the you mentioned. Yes, I'll do because it looks very recent. It looks recent. You also mentioned about the MRFs.
Yes.
Or you're dealing with the segregation. Yes.
Yes, teach the children find a way of getting the tutors.
It is already. We are doing it. It's already. Yes. The curriculum. Yeah.
The teachers are taught to teach the children from standard.
Yeah. Even visiting schools, maybe.
You teach the children. Maybe the teachers.
So this issue we are going to attack it from many fronts. In the curriculum, from the residents association, everyone, and even our institution also we have that directorate which is dealing with education. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we have to fight from all corners. That's why I'm talking of AAK. Please help us with the wastewater infrastructure in areas where they are not connected to any sewer line. Naomi, nafikiri nilikuwa nimemention, and it looks like it was agreed, so I don't know where it is, I don't know the case, but I'll go and make a follow-up.
Don't make a follow-up and disappear.
Yeah, I think it's a case I'm going to...
I'll have to push.
Yeah, they are very powerful.
Thank you so much. I'm seeing the hand, but I honestly think we should finish. right? Maybe if there's something you can pick it up with that directly.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we've really overstretched our stadium. And I can tell people that, even myself. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to close at that particular point. Thank you once again for really yeah, and staying up to this particular moment. We do appreciate the time. And I hope that you found the session useful. I know there are still
They want to build a
unless they have another. We are always in that dilemma. There are specific issues that we want taken up and addressed by them. Please free to engage us and be able to see
unless they are starting a new one. Fine. This one
Otherwise, asante sana. We can close the word of prayer so that we can depart from this place. We've been here since morning. So who will close for us with the word of prayer? Why are you pointing each other?
Okay, tusimameni basi. Wow. The check this was very long. Let us pray together. Heavenly Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, again we bow before you to thank you. We want to bless you, my Father, for the time you have given us to be here today. We want to thank you, Father, for all the issues we have discussed here today. We want to thank you for our guests, our visitors whom you brought to us, Lord, to be able, my God, to shed light on a number of issues. We want to bless your holy name. Now, Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, we say that, God, your word says we can have nothing except it be given to us by God. Lord, everything that we have discussed here, we cannot achieve it without your help, oh Father. How we pray that God will to continue to bless us, and especially, Lord, the Kala team, the governing council, the CEO, my Father, that God, they continue to lead us in all these things that we have discussed today. Father, be with them, O God. We want to bless every resident association represented here, even the residents who are not with us here, wherever they are. We pray for your might and upon them, O God. We give you praise, we worship you, we glorify you, mighty Father. And as we meet again next time, all the glory, all the honor be to thy holy name. And Father, even as we continue, Father, to remember this, our great nation, Kenya. We pray that God, your peace shall continue to prevail in this country. We pray that God of all glory, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, there are going to be great love among all the citizens of this country. That God, we're going to be able to see prosperity because of the peace that you're going to give us in this land. Father, receive all the praise and the glory. In Jesus' mighty name, we are prayed. Amen. God bless you. Thank you.
You've tried. And you remain calm. It's good. It's good. Yeah. You're progressing. This is Kenya.